Stephen, what is the mission of Woodstock's Arrupe Program for Social Ethics in Business?
This program is uniquely designed to attempt to integrate the idea of theological reflection into the daily lives of business people. One of the major components of this program is trying to create opportunities to bridge the gap between theology and the business community. And one of the most effective ways that Jesuit education has shown to do this is through the notion of theological reflection, that the idea of discernment is one which is used in all decisions. That whether you're making a decision in a boardroom or whether you're making an intimate personal decision, that you take the time to acknowledge the implications to yourself, to those around you in your family, in your business, but also the implications on your broader community. That the notion of discernment is one that emphasizes that we don't remain isolated to ourselves, and that we only move forward with an idea when we feel comfortable both in our heart and our soul that these are things that are good for all those around us and not just for our own advancement. The Woodstock Theological Center has been committed to utilize the professional experiences of a broad range of business leaders in vast occupational fields to try to show that there truly is the opportunity for people to infuse their values, including religious values, into their business practices and be successful. And oftentimes it seems that these two notions are antithetical, but the mission of Woodstock is to help people understand how they can bring this down to the operation of their businesses on a daily basis, not something that's done in the abstract.
And what does Woodstock mean by steward leadership?
Well, I think that the whole notion of stewardship is one that has a long legacy in the Judeo-Christian tradition. But one thing that has become very clear, especially in the conversations of the members of our Arrupe Advisory Board, is that the notion of stewardship is based in a sense of personal responsibility. That your responsibility goes far beyond the bottom line, meeting your numbers for quarterly reports. It's having a deliberate conscientiousness that each day the decisions you make have a broad-ranging impact that go far beyond the confines of wherever your organization or your business is centered. In being able to try to stay in tune with these responsibilities, there comes the notion of accountability. And accountability must come to the individual. A true leader is one who accepts this responsibility, not out of ego, but out of commitment to values and to a feeling of responsibility for things that go beyond their own self-gain. The notion is centered on the idea of managing the creation and the goodness that God has given to us, as opposed to thinking that we own it. When we own it, we often tend to approach these elements as commodities, whether it is those that we can trade on Wall Street or whether it is those that we can package and sell to our customers. When we take a step back and we use the skills of theological reflection, we can try to become that much more intimately aware of how we're merely trying to manage the good that God has given us and infuse that into our daily decision making. And this is where the real challenge lies. And this is what we find from our advisory board in terms of trying to tap into their professional experience. Currently in the business community, we recognize that there is a unique opportunity for us to present to business leaders, both in the United States and abroad, the merits of a potential alternative model for leadership. Given the current economic downturn, we see a period in which people are beginning to understand that merely meeting the minimal requirements of government agencies or regulatory bodies, well, that didn't necessarily work in terms of advancing the common good. Whether it was several years back with the Enron crisis, or whether it was more recently with the bank bailout, many organizations were doing what the industry standard required. But many of the conversations and experiences that have drawn out of the vast leadership undertakings of our Arrupe board members have identified that these situations clearly represent that people need to learn how they can try to challenge themselves to hold to a higher standard. Because especially recently on Wall Street, we see how not only when you have a business culture which is very inclusive and seems to separate themselves from the rest of mainstream America, they can very efficiently rationalize their methods and their undertakings so that they are meeting ethical standards. But yet now we see the fallout and the impact of that not only on those individuals who made those decisions, but from a sense of stewardship, we see those millions of Americans who are now without work. We see communities that are devastated because of these decisions. All of these realities give us a unique opportunity where maybe this new generation of leadership throughout the country, which is going to be part of this economic rebuilding process, maybe they will be open to a new notion of business leadership, which includes these principles of stewardship. Here at Woodstock, one of the primary things that we work to do is to try to bridge this gap between the world of theology, of religious-based values, and the practical implications for the business world of the decisions they make. In order to do this, this is where we hope that through a series of structured interviews with business leaders throughout the country, we can begin to identify what are the core components of stewardship so that business leaders can find new ways to integrate these principles into their organizations to try to deal with challenging ethical situations proactively. Instead of doing damage control and having the reactive apologetic approach, which many firms and organizations do these days, the notion is, how do we then try to manage the resources that have been given to us by our Creator in a more thoughtful, conscientious, and personally responsible manner?